my review of the available information that approximately $500,000 US has been raised so far. It looks like the offering is ongoing. So we thought it might be a good idea just to have a conversation around what exactly this ICO is achieving, what the money is being raised for, and really who your investors are, because we'd like to get a better understanding of whether or not potentially securities law applies to what you're doing.
Okay. Well, in summary, I guess an ICO is part of a cryptocurrency mining operation, and so it's basically taking customer deposits on the product that is going to come out of mining the Equibit blockchain. So I think it'll also be important for us to distinguish between EDC, which is the company, and Equibit itself, which is a open source piece of software that we're going to be developing and releasing publicly. So essentially it's a sale of the cryptocurrency token, just in the same way that a Bitcoin miner will put Bitcoin on their computer, run it, and earn Bitcoins, and maybe they keep them, maybe they sell them as they go to pay for the electricity and et cetera. But the people who are buying it, these are the end users of the Equibit software who are ultimately going to be downloading and using the program, and they won't be able to use the program unless they have some of these digital tokens that are also called Equibits.
So they're obtaining these tokens in order to, when you say mine, are you talking about the process of developing additional Equibits? How does that compare to Bitcoin?
It's identical. So an Equibit miner or a Bitcoin miner are doing exactly the same thing. It's called proof of work. So that is a cryptographic puzzle that you solve through trial and error. And it's, the first person to solve it wins that race. And then we start over with the next challenge and keep going. But every time somebody solves this problem, a new block or batch of transactions is added to the blockchain file, and that person or computer, whoever it was, receives two things. They receive the block reward, which is a pre-programmed amount of the token, plus whatever the transaction fees are that are contained in the transactions that are in that block.
Okay, so identical to Bitcoin.
Okay, can you just take it back to, first of all, who are you soliciting to kind of buy into these ICOs?
Anybody who is interested in using the system.
And can you tell if they're Canada-based or global, or do you know their identities?
They would be from everywhere.
And how do you know they're capable of using the system?
Well, it's just software. So if they're able to go to the website, they already have everything that they need to use the system.
So, but you could have passive investors.
Sorry, what would you say is a passive investor?
Somebody who just buys and doesn't do anything with the software, doesn't mine, doesn't do anything at this point.
I guess, but then everybody who's just sitting on Bitcoins is basically also a passive investor.
So when you say that they're from everywhere, that's just a guess on your part. Do you actually have a sense of what countries they're from, what states or what provinces or territories, or are you just making the assumption that if they can access your website, they are able to purchase tokens and to run the software?
Well, we have analytics data on everybody who's coming to the site and purchasing.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, that's like, the length of their session, their location, so roughly city, country, and all of that data. We verify everybody's email, and that piece of data is really all we need to deliver the Equibits.
Okay, so just in terms of, let's say I'm sitting in Ontario, I get onto your website. How do I get involved in this? Kind of take us through from.
They would register on the site, verify their email, and make a purchase.
Right. So I've actually clicked on that register button, and you're asking for very limited information, it looks like. Is there another level beyond providing that initial information that includes the email address and clicking register? Like, is there another layer of information that you're collecting once that's registered?
Well, they have to validate the email so that we know that this is not a fake email, like it's a real email with a real person at the other end of it.
Okay.
And is there a minimum dollar amount that people can buy, or can they just buy, whatever they want?
Whatever quantity.
Sorry, and are they buying it on your website, or do they have to buy the crypto through an exchange and then get onto your website?
No exchange. This is all, it's not being done through an intermediary.
So they're paying using what currency? A digital currency or a fiat currency?
Primarily Bitcoin, but we do also accept U.S. dollars and Canadian dollars.
So then they do have to visit some sort of an exchange, presumably, to obtain that Bitcoin, right?
No.
So
for them to first get the Bitcoins?
Yes.
Not necessarily. They may have mined those Bitcoins themselves. They may have purchased them from somebody else in a similar fashion to the way they're purchasing the Equibits.
Okay, so since you've got kind of your legal counsel on the call, I'm sure they understand kind of why we're asking the question. Any input in terms of why this is not?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we obviously saw the press release that came out, which was stated that distributed ledger technologies will have the potential to increase efficiencies, and that the OSC is keen to support this innovation, may be subject to securities laws. And we also noticed that ICOs specifically were called out. So we wanted to know if there was any additional guidance from the OSC on ICOs specifically, and what type of characteristics that they're looking at for sort of securities law issues.
Well, I think the question ultimately is, in terms of the offering, is it a security, right? And I think that's part of what we're trying to understand. Like, someone who's getting on to the website is providing funding for, obviously, this business, and I guess a lot of what you're trying to build involves securities in some way, shape, or form. So we're trying to figure out kind of why. Have you turned your mind to whether you needed to be registered to do this, or what kind of prospectus exemptions? Like, we're trying to figure out kind of what's been done at this point.
Well, I've been in this industry since 2010, and I've watched it very carefully from multiple angles: banking, securities, law, and I've been very up to date on everything that's developed since then. And I've even seen very large and detailed legal analyses on cryptocurrencies and ICOs that take the position that it essentially depends, because the ICO or what a cryptocurrency token is pretty broad. It could be a lot of different things. You have cryptocurrency tokens that represent a claim on storage space, like hard drive space. You have cryptocurrency tokens that are claims on processing time on the network. So as is the case with something like Ethereum, an example of a storage space would be something called storage or made safe. We have cryptocurrencies that are used in domain registration now as well. So the conclusion that everywhere I've seen has always been, it depends on what that token is. And so, an Equibit, like what is being sold in this ICO, is functionally identical to a Bitcoin, which I've never seen any securities regulator make any move towards Bitcoin and regulating Bitcoin as a security. So,
Sorry, but Bitcoin as a way to make a payment is different than asking investors to give you Bitcoin so that you can build what you need to build as a business. That would attract prospectus and registration depending on kind of how it's done. So I guess, and we're not here to kind of, we're just want to know, have you turned your mind to this? And if you have, kind of what prospectus exemptions do you think you're relying on? We're just trying to understand kind of what...
Sorry, this is Zersetzung from Davies. We just wanted to confirm also if you had taken a view on whether Bitcoin itself or other cryptocurrencies were securities under Ontario Securities law. We haven't seen anything from the SEC or the OSC on this, and so we're very interested in this.
Well, I think everyone's very interested in Bitcoin at the moment, and that includes people who are looking to put money into Bitcoin in expectation of the fact that the value will rise. So I think that it's a day-by-day discussion, and although perhaps initially Bitcoin was viewed as a currency for purchases and sales of items or bartering or whatever we want to call it, I think what we're seeing more and more now is that people are viewing investments in cryptocurrencies as investments that are analogous to securities investments, which is going to raise issues of people such as retail investors putting amounts of money that they can't necessarily afford to lose into something that they think will be the next Ether or the next Bitcoin. So, I mean, the answer is that we do have certain concerns and we do have certain sensitivities around Bitcoin. And that's the purpose of the news release. It's not to make a determinative statement about, what is and isn't a security, because as you just pointed out, it's very facts specific, which is the purpose of having this call.
So I guess our question is how is that proceeding on your end? Because, I've been proceeding with what has been consistent in the industry and consistent with what I've seen not only from the OSC, but from securities regulators across this country, throughout Europe, throughout everywhere, really. I've been monitoring the situation as it evolves very closely. And, so far, nobody has stepped in to regulate the sale of a cryptocurrency by miners. They're not even required to register as a money service business. Now, cryptocurrency exchange is, but they're also taking custody of customer funds. They're doing order execution and a number of other tasks that would clearly require that kind of a registration. So, it's I do agree. We're blazing a new trail here. And so I just, would appreciate any guidance that the OSC has at this moment so that we can act accordingly.
Okay, so on the crypto piece, I do think that FinTrack and AML does apply because I do think they have some guidance in terms of other currency. So I will leave that to your legal counsel on that piece. So I'm not going to talk about the money services piece. I guess we're trying to understand, first of all, what we heard is anyone can get onto your system, anyone can register, but to Amy's question, if I happen to be someone who's just been hearing a lot about, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, sounds to me like I could get onto your platform, buy, whether it's, Equibits, whether it's through Canadian, U.S., or cryptocurrencies, and then what are you doing with that money?
That's booked in as a sale.
Sale, but a sale of what can I expect in return?
The Equibits.
So just to kind of expand on Pat's question a little bit, it says on your ICO page that early adopters can reserve Equibit units through the crowd sale, and it looks like they are reserving units among the first million of a 22 million unit system. So what is the advantage of someone coming in and receiving a token to be among the first million in comparison to the other 21 million? Like, what is the value added for them to get in initially through the ICO? Obviously there must be a return of some sort to them.
The value is that they will not have to mine the Equibit system themselves personally in order to get Equibits and use the system on day one.
What is that? I'm sorry, what does that mean?
Well, you cannot create a transaction on Bitcoin or Equibit or any cryptocurrency network without having some of that cryptocurrency to incentivize the system to process your transaction. So if I don't have any Bitcoins, I can't send any Bitcoins, or I can't do anything that is on the network. So if I download a Bitcoin wallet and install it on my computer, I just have a bank account with no money in it. So the reason why you would buy in a crowd sale is that, on day one when you open up your wallet, you do have some of those tokens in there, and you do have the ability to transact on the system without having to mine.
And what kind of transactions are happening on the system to date?
On the Equibit system?
Yep.
Yeah, nothing at the moment. It's still in-house and being tested.
So but I thought you had raised $500,000 US. So aren't people holding on to tokens right now to mine?
No, this is like a Kickstarter.
It hasn't been launched yet.
So where's the money going towards?
Finishing the software.
So the software hasn't even been developed. So the $500,000 US is going towards the development of a software.
Sorry, could you repeat that? You broke up there.
The $500,000 US, that's going towards developing a software.
Yeah. In principle, it's like a Kickstarter campaign where somebody has a product, they have a prototype, they want to mass produce it, and they get a bunch of deposits from their future customer.
Okay,
yeah.
Oh, just continue. Sorry. So you said that they're going to get deposits.
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, so how much do you need to build the software? I mean, do you have a set amount? Do you have to do all 3 levels of funding in order to fully develop the software? That's the first question. And if you don't receive all 3 levels of funding, what happens to those investors who have put in $500,000? Are they going to get their money back?
Yeah. Well, the core software that creates the Equibit network is practically done. So we're just polishing it. We're putting it through more testing, and we'll be launching that system later this year. According to our roadmap, we're aiming for mid-year, June, July.
Okay, so how much was that? How much is involved in that funding of the core system?
Minimal.
So the 525 you've raised to date would cover that?
Yeah, but it's mostly going to the development of another app, which is going to be the wallet.
Okay. And then what's the wallet going to be used for?
Well, so we have two apps. There's the mining app, which is Equibit, and then the wallet app is so that people can take custody of anything on the Equibit system and create transactions. It's the interface.
And what kinds of transactions would they do under the wallet phase or under the app?
Again, it depends. But that's mostly transferring Equibits or Bitcoins from one address to another address.
Sorry, just to cut in here for a second, we also have a question on the dealer registration issue. So we saw that in the press release as well. Is the OSC contemplating a new category for coin dealer in order for somebody to engage in this type of business, or would they require a full-blown Canadian dealer registration, which would effectively mean that nobody operating in this type of business could achieve it?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're there yet. I think right now we're just trying to figure out. Like, I don't know that IROC membership would work in this type of business, but I guess we're just trying to understand. Like, it sounds to me like you're trying to take the position that it's a currency. The Equibit is a currency, and we're trying to understand why someone buying into this platform or providing funds for this platform, what their expectation is once they've registered and handed over, whether it's 10,000, 100,000.
Well, the expectation of a buyer would be, once I have a wallet, then I am day one user with the ability to do any kind of transaction because I have a bunch of Equibits in my back pocket that I can use to create transactions on the Equibit network.
But is it always going to be currency to currency? Like it's from one?
Well, that will depend on the state of the Equibit. And that was a question I had at our last meeting, where the Equibits can exist in two different states. One is a null or a blank Equibit, in which case it is essentially identical to Bitcoin, or an authorized Equibit, which would then be, its value is derived from the identity information that has been attached to those particular Equibits. So, the real world example of that is a blank certificate versus one that has been filled out and signed.
Sorry, what kind of certificate? Share certificate. Oh, so like shares. Is that right?
Yeah, so an authorized Equibit is, well, whatever the issuer wants it to be. So the Equibit system operates like ComputerShare's DRS system or DTCC's system, where they can register securities on this platform, and when they authorize it, they can give it the information that describes whatever the particular type of security is. So if it's a common share or a preferred share, or if it's debt, the person who is doing this can define what that is, attach that information to the Equibit, and it becomes part of the public record, and everybody can track it and see where it's going, and can be used for a number of other functions. So blank Equibit is not all that exciting. It's just a way to pay the network for the transactions you're submitting to it.
Okay, so ultimately, an authorized Equibit could represent any asset.
Sorry, there was a beep in between. We didn't hear what the question was.
The authorized Equibit, kind of if we were to take this, roll this forward into the future, could represent a share, could represent debt, could represent almost any asset if it's been programmed.
Yeah, it will depend on what the programming was.
Okay, so you said mining, wallet, and then is that the third phase, the actual asset?
Yeah, but we have nothing to do with those. Those are all created by the people who want to create that transaction.
Okay.
So on this system, there are no dealers, there are no exchanges. It's purely peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably deal with kind of what that platform is at the later date. I guess the purpose of today's call was just trying to understand, if I am getting onto your system, first of all, you are taking, I think you call them some kind of deposits, customer deposits, and kind of what the expectation is of someone buying into your system. Because it sounds to me like it could be an investment.
And that's kind of what I wanted to ask counsel on the phone is, have you given any thought to whether the sale of the Equibit token meets the definition of a security? And more specifically, because I know the definition of a security is a broad definition, but whether this initial sale of the Equibit token is an investment contract?
So we are in the process of completing our research on this. I mean, it's obviously going to be a very fact-specific case, so it's going to depend on the particular circumstances. And again, we would really like some additional guidance from the OSC. We're looking at what the SEC has come out with. We're also looking at comments made by Saskatchewan regulators in terms of how they treat Bitcoin and so on.
Now, so I would actually, this analysis is not completed yet these Equibit tokens are being offered to customers right now?
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying that?
Well, this is not the only analysis that has happened.
No, and I appreciate that, but I mean, I think, just from a practical standpoint, the analysis has to be completed in terms of whether you are distributing a security prior to actually distributing the securities. And I'm assuming that, it does fall under the definition of a security.
Yeah. Well, we've done our own analysis internally, and we haven't seen anything that would suggest that a sale of cryptocurrencies is a security or an investment contract, and all of every analysis that I've seen has also echoed that sentiment. Now, there are certain cryptocurrencies that are defined as equity or some sort of investment in a company. And those indeed are going on and being actually called ICOs, which I believe is not the correct thing to do. If you're selling equity, then very clearly it's an investment contract. But if you're mining cryptocurrencies and selling them to the public, which millions of people are doing worldwide, no regulator has come in and said that they are engaged in a securities offering.
Okay, but can I ask, and again, this is more, obviously we put out the media release because we've heard people say this is not regulated, and we tend to differ. But in your particular case, I agree with you, it depends on the facts and the circumstances. You're offering to the general public. It's not, you know, I'm guessing that you're not finding out in terms of who the investors are other than kind of basic information. And they may not be miners. At the end of the day, they may be investing because they think you've got a great business idea, and they're hoping that it's going to increase in value, right? So I guess that's why we're asking the question. I don't think it's enough to say we haven't seen anything out there, because I'll be honest with you, I go to conferences all the time, and people seem to think that it's not a regulated space, which is part of why we started Launchpad, is to raise awareness, but also to be able to help guide in newer areas like this. So this is, you know, obviously the phone call is to find out kind of what's been done to date and have you turn your mind to this. And again, we'll defer to seeing the analysis by your legal counsel, but it's sounding like investors could invest in this that are not miners, that are not going to be, you know, looking to get the block rewards or otherwise.
Yeah. Well, the value of a Bitcoin or the value of an Equibit is, it fluctuates based on the demands of the people who are using the network. And in that case, it's like any other commodity. You know, you can't do a lot of things without oil, so we have an oil market, but a barrel of oil is not a security. It's not a proxy for some other asset. It's not a claim on a revenue stream or anything like that we would expect to see from something like equity or debt. It is the asset in and of itself. And so there's lots of other kinds of assets that people collect and buy or for the purposes of, you know, hopefully getting some appreciation. However, you know, in our own ICO, you know, we're stating very clearly in the terms that, you know, everybody's buying them because they want to be an early adopter.
And can someone only buy Equibet on your platform?
At the moment, it's the only place, yes. But it will be in many other venues as soon as we release the software. They'll be being bought and sold, you know, on the street, or, you know, just like any other cryptocurrency. Wherever you could get Bitcoins, you would also be able to get Equibits.
So is the concern really with the ICO, or is it more with cryptocurrencies themselves right now from the OC?
I mean, I think the concern is that investors are probably looking at this and you know, providing funds. And certainly the question that's raised, I think, from our perspective is this, you know, a product that's well understood by retail investors? I can tell you from a corporate, and I'm looking at Needy because she's from corporate finance, the minute that you're raising capital from investors, you got to turn your mind to the prospectus requirements and what exemptions you're relying on. So I think that's part of what we're trying to figure out in terms of, had you done the analysis and kind of what was the thinking in terms of why this wouldn't be a security?
Well, it wouldn't be a security because everything else that is practically identical to it has not been a security.
I don't think that's, I don't know that the analogy between Bitcoin is the same.
So, have you had an opportunity to look at any of the other ICOs that are out there, or that have been out there in the past?
I mean, obviously, people are raising these ICOs that are out there, and as they come to our attention, we'll be looking at them, which was part of the reason for the media release. But Equibit was brought to our attention.
And I mean, just another thing for you, Davies, to think about, and also the company as well, just taking a quick look at the white paper that's available. I mean, what you're describing is a lot more than just simply issuing tokens in order to allow people to have pools or to be able to mine a cryptocurrency. I mean, you're providing descriptions of things like trading passports and, you know, the uses of the tokens. I really do encourage you to look at the definition and the case law on investment contracts and, you know, the prong of the test that talks about the significant efforts of others and bringing up the value of the initial contribution of money that you make. It's not clear to us at this time that a token simply equals a stake in a cryptocurrency. I think that's really the issue that you need to be thinking about in terms of whether or not you need to be turning your mind to prospectus and registration.
Yeah, well, the thing to remember with the white paper, though, is it describes absolutely everything that the system can do. EDC itself is not doing all of those things. EDC is simply mining the blank Equibits and selling them, which is, you know, as far as our analysis has been, is not considered an offering of securities under any of these other cryptocurrencies. So there's an important distinction between blank and authorized Equibits. That, you know, the first section, I think, it goes over in detail the process of how to transform an Equibit from a blank one into an authorized Equibit. And of course, an authorized Equibit is absolutely, definitely a security at that point because it's linked to an issuer. You know, they define, you know, what it is in law and what kind of rights in the company that it would give the holder. So those, I think, you know, those would definitely trigger prospectus or an offering memorandum requirement. But the blank Equibit doesn't get into any of that.
Right, but the blank Equibit is going to be the means to getting to that value.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not suggesting that the blank and the authorized Equibits are the same, and I agree that the authorized Equibits definitely would fall under the securities regime. But what I'm saying is that the very fact that this white paper describing a particular business model that's envisioned to be built with the funds raised through the ICO, the fact that this white paper is on the ICO offering page is going to give investors the expectation that their initial investment and the value of that investment will be tied to the efforts of others in developing a platform that allows for authorized Equibits to be transferred or used. I think that's, and they're not buying these tokens with a white paper that simply says you buying this token allows you to mine a cryptocurrency that you can use to buy or sell items in the future. I just think you need to think very carefully about the distinction between those two types of representations to investors or buyers of tokens.
Well, a technical white paper is not a document for investors. It's a document for users, and they would need to know everything.
It's up on the website, which I was easily able to access, right?
Plus, I'm not sure that, you know, people, we can use words like cryptocurrency and users, but at the end of the day, what are the expectations of people putting money into your platform?
I think like Amy had suggested already, I mean, I know there is the Howey test, which is a prominent SEC case, which really does get into what is an investment contract. And I think we really urge you to take a look at that to see whether the initial sale of the Equibits falls under that definition.
So I got to be honest, I'm more concerned about the investors putting money onto your platform.
So the concern is really the ICO versus the cryptocurrency. Just so we can be clear on your view.
I think one thing I've learned about being in this fintech space, we can use a lot of words, but it's what are we talking about, right? Like, I don't want to say ICO and it means one thing to me and another thing to you.
Yeah, what we mean is the initial coin sale, right? Like the coin sale before the software is available to the public and people can engage in mining activity in order to mine the null Equibits.
It is soliciting investors to raise capital so that you can develop your platform. That sounds to me like a security, and I guess the question is, I'm not even going to get into a registration, but have you even turned your mind to the prospectus requirements? And then, obviously, if there's barriers in all of that, that's what we're here for. That's what the Launchpad team is for. But based on what we've seen so far, it looks very much like investors, being solicited. And again, this is retail space. And I know you're trying to say that the users will know that a white paper is this or that. I don't think the ordinary investor would know that.
So, sorry to cut you off. So just based on that statement, is it fair to say that the OSC will consider, I guess, the typical quote-unquote ICO as a securities offering?
It will depend.
Sorry?
I mean, I think any lawyer will tell you that. We just came from a blockchain Osgood panel yesterday in sessions, and I think everyone on both sides of the border will tell you it depends on what the features of the ICO is for.
Sorry, what the funds will be used for? Is that what it is?
Yep. Are you relying on the efforts of people that are on the platform? But then I'd say to you, if you're opening it up to the public, it sounds to me like people can just put their money into this with the expectation that somehow this will go up in value in the future, and and that's why I think we're going to leave it to you at this point. I mean, for us, really, we wanted to know whether you'd even turn your mind to this. But we did want to raise this with you, and obviously, we are open to hearing what you'd like to do in terms of next steps. But at the end of the day, it seems to me you've got $500,000 raised in U.S. dollars. Sorry, when does it end?
It looks like you've got another 10 days to go. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, this month.
If I were to ask you how many Canadians have invested onto your platform, would you be able to tell me that?
Yeah, maybe we could get an estimate. Yeah.
But would you have verified that information? Like, you would verify it through IP addresses or analytics that you've collected? Is that how you verify that information?
Yeah, we would have to do it that way.
But not in terms of actually collecting any sort of know your client information?
No, because as I said, you've only ever needed the information to make a delivery for token sales, which would be the verified email.
So how about the number of investors then? Do you know that number?
The number of the what?
Of total investors.
Oh yeah, we would know that, and the emails and the quantities that everybody has purchased.
Okay. Do you know that number off the top of your head? Approximately?
No.
Did you know the single biggest amount purchased? Like, has one investor purchased like $50,000 worth?
No, nothing like that.
But do you have, sorry, I mean, would you know, again, just off the top of mind, in terms of what has the biggest contributed?
No, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay. So obviously we're going to have to think about this more on our end, but if you could give us the information you got, certainly in terms of number of investors, kind of what average investment is, and then on the Canadian specific as well, what the percentage might be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We're also going to take a look on our end. And in terms of next steps, do you want to set something up so we can talk again, or should we just correspond by email? Or
I mean, I think what would be helpful for us at this stage, I know from my perspective, is to get your analysis in terms of taking into account all facts and circumstances, how this Equibit offering or the ICO offering, according to you, does not meet the definition of a security. Or, if that has changed, whether it does meet the definition of a security. And like Pat said, because if it does, then obviously, a prospectus or a prospectus exemption has to be used. And then I think we can get into, registration and, know your client, know your product.
Sorry, what's the first capital raise? What's the total?
So they've only done one funding
I'm cognizant
level.
of the fact that you're raising right now, so.
I mean, it closes in 10 days. It looks like you've done funding level number 2. Was there a funding level number 1 that we missed?
sorry, can you repeat that question?
So it looks like the crowd sale ends in 10 days, and it looks like funding level number 3 is available and number 4 is available. I haven't done the actual calculations, but it looks like there was a first funding level that we missed. How much was raised during the first funding level?
The aggregate of everything is on the website.
So that's the 500 US.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure whether who wants to respond to this. When do you think we might have either just in terms of the number of investors and, kind of amounts raised, and then kind of specific to Canadian investors, when we might get that, and then presumably the legal analysis is going to take a little longer?
For my data in a week. We could provide the list of purchase transactions and some information on the country that the traffic is coming in from end of this week. And
so in terms of the legal analysis, we're still in the process of that, but we'll give you an update on that when Chris sends the rest of the information.
Okay. Okay. All right. I mean, obviously, this is a new area, so if I guess the one thing we just say is certainly, I think we've heard in terms of some of the thinking, but we encourage you to kind of turn your mind to what we've been talking about today, and especially in terms of investors and kind of what their expectations are.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.